young or old, the kid in you never dies. That's the philosophy behind this company. I created the Power Knights when I was 11 years old. In those years, creating comics on a professional level was just a dream. I felt I owed my younger self the opportunity to make it a reality. With a quote like that, how could we not invite Keithan Jones, owner of independent comic book publisher Kid Comics, back to the show? Keithan was gracious enough to let us swing by Kid Comics headquarters for a 2-hour conversation where he gave us an update on the Power Knights issue number 3, which was successfully funded on Kickstarter. He also shares some insight into what it's like being an artist and a business owner, what he would like Kid Comics to become, and a whole ton more. Enjoy, and artists assemble. Hey there, fellow nerds and geeks. Aaron Nabus here, and welcome to the Hall H Show. On this episode, we reconnect with a previous guest, comic book creator and owner of publisher Kid Comics, Keithan Jones. We last talked to him back in episode 2, which we recorded back in November of 2016. As always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, HallH.com co-founder and Hall H Show co-host, Alex Benedicto.
Hey there.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, comic book fans?
On this episode, we will get a few updates from Keithan regarding a few projects he talked about the last time he was on, like the Kickstarter campaign for the Power Knights, his teaching gig at Plaid College, the current Kid Comics promotion that we recently saw on social media that he posted. We'll also get some insight on how it is to be an independent comic book creator and publisher. We'll put a quick spotlight on some artists that recently caught our attention online or at a convention. And we'll also ask Keithan some off-the-beaten-path questions in our Thunder Round. And then we'll end with a little flash forward and talk about what's on the horizon for all of us. I guess I would just do a little quick round of introductions for those of the audience that didn't listen to episode 2. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Keithan? And I guess just let us know what first got you hooked on being a nerd.
I think the technical term is geek. Nerd is something else. You're asking me what got me into comics, or just
sure?
Well, I guess the short of it is when I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and my dad, who recently passed, he was in the Navy, and he would bring comic books home every once in a while. I wasn't collecting at the time, and I think I'm gonna say 5 or 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So the only thing going on back then was Elvis and Evel Knievel. Probably the only thing that captured my attention. Movies, I don't even remember any movies that maybe Jaws, Scanners, stuff like that. Whatever my dad took us to.
Right.
But I wasn't activated yet, right? So like I said, I knew what comic books were, but I wasn't collecting them. Nothing really sparked me at that time. Mm-hmm. Except maybe I was vaguely interested in Jack Kirby and Stan Lee because I kept seeing their names in comic books. And this was back in the late 70s, or maybe mid 70s. And I didn't know who they were. I didn't understand how comics were made. But I did see those names popping up, and I said, well, these guys must be making all the books. I don't know what they do, but that Jack Kirby guy, that name sounds cool.
Right.
Right.
And speaking of Kirby, we're celebrating his centennial this year. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Jack Kirby's an artist that I didn't really appreciate until I got older. Mm-hmm. I was gravitating more toward artists like Neil Adams So I didn't. Jack Kirby, when I first saw it, it came across as old school, and so I didn't really understand what he was doing when I was originally exposed to it.
Got it.
Kind of like Picasso. Like you're like, what is this? You know, you just think it's just almost amateurs, right? Till you evolve in the world of art and you understand how things are done and you get some life in you, and then you look at this stuff again, you're like, oh snap, I get it now.
Right.
But going back to my story, my dad, I'm going to say 1976. My dad took us to see Star Wars.
Right. I remember you talking about that in the last episode.
That was the spark.
Right.
After seeing that film, I went home and made my first homemade comic, which was actually no, that was the spark to get me interested, right? But my first comic I made was Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, after I saw that film, then I actually actively started making comic books at home, and collecting or surveying Star Wars art books and discovering that they even existed.
Right.
And that was the Star. I always go back to Star Wars because that's really my entry into this world. That's what really opened me up and got me going into in the world of science fiction, fantasy, and comic book art and stuff like that. And just collecting comics, because comics was the only thing I could find that even outside of the film, the Star Wars movies, that was the only thing I could find where I can get stories that were fantastical, like out there, And back then we didn't have CGI, and we didn't have the PlayStations and the Xboxes and the internet. We didn't have any of that. You just had the library. You had cartoons whenever they decided to show it to you. It wasn't like we had Netflix.
Right.
We didn't have Cartoon Network. So you just had to go by the scheduling of whatever was scheduled at the time. And if you missed it, you missed it. Right? So we all kind of collectively experienced, my peers, we all collectively experienced this stuff at the same time, because you would go to school the next day and say, talk about what you saw. Oh, like, I remember seeing Star Blazers, Spaceship Yamato from Japan. I remember seeing that for the first time, was just totally blown away. Like, didn't know it was from Japan. I didn't know any of that, but I just knew something was different and hard about this cartoon. Like, this is hardcore. That and Speed Racer compared to the American stuff, which was just Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, and stuff like that, Scooby-Doo and all that stuff, right? And then here comes this cartoon that's like basically moving comic books, because of the way they took themselves seriously, and the subject matter was a lot heavier. So that stuff was just blowing me away. But again, I didn't understand that this was stuff that was already old and it was dubbed for American audiences.
Right.
I didn't understand that until my dad took me to my first comic book convention. And that was way back when I had already become a teenager. So I didn't even know comic book conventions existed, right? He took me to my first San Diego Comic Con back in, I'm going to say 85.
Okay.
And that was another mind-blowing experience. Like, what? This, like, you could get a job doing this and you can actually meet these people? So I found out through that experience that you have to put a portfolio together to get a job in comics, right? And of course, I had been drawing all those years leading up to that point. So I had material, but I didn't have it in any type of organized manner, right?
Do you remember how that first experience was at San Diego Comic-Con was for you? Like, do you remember vividly any memories from there?
I went with friends, and they claim, I don't remember, but they claimed I talked to Frank Miller. I don't remember that part. Maybe I did. And that was during his Daredevil run, when he's really popular with the Elektra story and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I'm sure some other legends were there. Maybe, who's the other guy that was?
With Daredevil? Or
I know Frank Miller was popular at the time. He was doing Daredevil. George Perez was doing Teen Titans.
Right.
And if they were there, I don't remember. I don't remember. It was information overload. I was so jazzed just to know that. I mean, just looking at original art and seeing it and having it in my hands. And then it was also my first realization that Star Blazers, Speed Racer, Robotech, and all this stuff came from Japan originally, because the actual original books were there, untranslated. So it was like, wow, okay. Now I see what's going on. You know, it's like I entered a secret society that was always there, and I didn't know it. You know, why my dad took me, I have no idea. I mean, I know he knows. I know he knew that I was into comic books and drawing and stuff like that.
Right.
And somehow the Comic-Con had escaped me as far as, and I'm living here in San Diego, and this is where it originally happened, the convention itself. And he just kind of took me there as a surprise, I guess. And yeah, man, it was, the whole thing was a kind of a nirvana, I guess, to answer your question. Just like, wow, just absorbing it all in. But the following year, right, the next year, I did bring my portfolio, and I was 16, right? Maybe 15, because my birthday's in July. So I actually got a gig. I actually got my first job. You know, none of the DC and Marvel, they passed them. If I showed, I don't remember if I showed it. I think I did, but those guys said it was good and keep working at it. Don't worry, you're on your way. That type of critique.
Right.
And then I showed it to this independent called Apple Comics. And at the time, Apple Comics was producing one of their books was Dracula, an anthology book based around Dracula.
Okay. I think I remember seeing some images you posted about that.
Yeah, I could probably bring it out here for you guys. Yeah. And they liked my portfolio, right, well enough to give me a shot for an 8-page story in that book. So after the convention was over, I went. I think they mailed it to me, the script, and I remember being paid. What was it? $100 per page for pencils, for 8 pages, and then when I did it, and then I asked them if I could ink it, and they were like, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I can do it. And they were like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll do it." And so they paid me another $100 per page. So I ended up doing two. So in total, it was $200 per page.
Okay.
But what happened was when I finished the inks, they weren't happy about it because I had put too much detailing in the inking. Some of the okay. The detailing was too fine for the printing purposes at that time. Like, it was still, comics were still being printed on newsprint, but there was no Photoshop or anything like that going on at that time.
Right.
So they said that if the way I inked it was overbearing and it would get muddy once it gets reduced down to the comic book size. So that kind of devastated me because it didn't get printed for years.
Right.
And I kind of lost contact with those guys over the years and just kind of went on about my school life, and that was that. And I came to find out the book was printed years later in the 90s. I didn't know, but for some reason, somehow it got printed. It did end up getting printed.
With your inks?
With my inks, yeah. Pretty much unaltered.
Oh, wow.
And I found the copy. I always wondered what happened, man, what happened to that book? What happened to the originals? Because I didn't have the originals either. And I went on Google, and bing, there it was. I was like, what? This book, it got printed? And and I bought my own book online so I would have a copy of it.
Right.
And the crazy part was another great that recently passed, Bernie Wrightson, right?
Okay.
He was one of the artists in that anthology, in that book that I was in. He was one of the guys in the story, like his early work.
Wow.
I was like, wow, I actually have piece of history here.
Were you credited in the book?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
I could show you the book.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got it in my room. I can show it to you. But that was my first professional gig where I actually did comic book art, paid comic book work. Wow. And I just been doing it on and off, mostly as an independent for all through the 90s, all the way up till now. I never did any work for Marvel or DC. And to be honest, I never really submitted my work to them either. It's just something in me has always been very independent. It's like if they called me and say, "Hey, would you like to do Spider-Man or Batman?" I was like, "Heck yeah, I'll do it." You know, yeah, I'll do it, but I've never actively pursued them because I don't know. It's just I always had strong visions as far as what I want to do with my own characters and
Right.
whatnot. But I'm not opposed to like working with them if they were to actually tap me or call me for something. You know, because there are some books like if Marvel gave me an option, I would love to do a Conan book.
Right.
I would love to get on Conan or Spider-Man.
So
And
would you have like complete editorial control, or does it matter?
no, I mean, I don't technically consider myself a writer yet.
Uh,
So, but I have plot ideas. I wouldn't sit there, you know, I would like to team up with a good writer and just kind of like guide them into direction, into my vision and just go back and forth with a good writer. And kind of like what I'm doing now with my own
Right.
projects.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. And yeah. And I don't know, for DC, what would I do for DC? I got to do Teen Titans because that was my childhood. The Teen Titans was it's the spark that inspired the Power Knights, the book I'm working on now. So I would love to get on that book.
Yeah, I definitely need to go back and, you know, I grew up a Marvel guy, so I need to go back and sort of read the old DC stuff because at WonderCon I went to a panel with Marv Wolfman.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so he talked about some of the stuff that he worked on DC. You know, specifically, you know, Teen Titans is, you know, he's the creator of Raven and Starfire and Cyborg. So I found it pretty interesting. That was one of my favorite panels that I attended there, and I kind of made it a point at WonderCon to sort of attend the writer panels. So yeah, going forward, I need to go back and just check out his work and other people that I've missed.
He was a
on the
great
years.
writer, man. Because when he did the Judas Contract, that original run, the comic book, because they just made a cartoon of it. He was sowing seeds from the beginning.
Right.
You know, the way he handled Terra. You know, I haven't watched the cartoon, but I know from the comic book, he was really. I mean, I was chomping at the bits every month to get the next issue, and just to find out where these characters were going, not so much the overall picture. Like you really did care about, at least I did, and my friends, we really did care about the individual characters and who they were dating, and when they broke up, we had opinions about that. And, when Tara flipped on the Titans when she was a double agent, that was like a gut punch. Like, oh man, and the role of the Terminator, who's known as Deathstroke now, and Robin becoming Nightwing was part of that whole run when he originally became.
Speaking of Nightwing, I've gotten to be a big fan of Nightwing recently. Like I got the trades of the Rebirth. So.
Oh, you mean his individual book?
Yeah, his individual.
I haven't read it yet. I have to check it out.
It's pretty cool.
Good. Who's writing that? Do you
I'm
remember?
not sure exactly.
But I know when back in the Titans, that was his thing. Like he really wanted separation from Batman and respectability as his own man.
Right.
And the Titan thing was like he loved the Titans and that was his squad, but at the same time it was time for him to grow up, basically, like leave the coop.
Ironically, he becomes Batman later. For a little bit.
right. He actually becomes Batman?
Yeah.
Did he? What run is that? That's not current, is it?
No, it's a while back.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think back then when I was reading it, that was that was kind of like what I envisioned also, like when does he become Batman?
I think it may have been when Damian was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when he became Nightwing, I was kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like Nightwing better.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it was real cool. And I don't know if you remember, but they actually did a big crossover between the X-Men and the Titans. They were so popular back then.
Yeah, that's a cool. I like that cover.
Yeah, that was a classic right there. And they had Walt Simonson did the art. He was one of my favorite artists, and Chris Claremont wrote it along with Marv Wolfman.
Wow.
And that was awesome. You don't see that anymore.
Do you think it will ever happen again?
In the comics, or
Yeah.
I'll be shocked. They're not as popular as they were, though.
Yeah.
X-Men are still pretty popular, but there was I don't know. One thing that's the point I want to bring. Like with the indie crowd, they all have we all have our visions, and we're all in our own world with our characters. And I see some of these indie guys doing these crossover books, right? And I'm like, I don't understand that. Like, why are you doing a crossover book when no one knows who these characters are? That's the magic of a crossover is because you know the characters, right? They've been established. And so when they cross over, there's weight to it. Otherwise, you're just looking at a book with a bunch of characters you don't know crossing over. It's kind of like that. It's almost like, well, it's almost like as someone outside of that small circle, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like, oh, I'm being introduced to all of these characters right now in this book. So it's not the crossover thing doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
But when you see, like with the recent Batman versus Superman, there's weight to it before you even see the film because you know those two characters. They have history, you know. That was, remember back in the day when Marvel had Marvel Team Up Presents, and they would mix these characters.
Right.
It only works because they had established characters.
Of course.
You understand what I mean? They couldn't do it with a bunch of unknown characters. So I think you have to be patient and build up your characters and grow your audience and be patient enough to do that before you start branching out into these gimmicks and whatnot, you know.
Speaking of characters, let's go into the characters of the Power Knights, and maybe you can give us an update.
Yeah, that's what I'm in the midst of. I'm just about finished drawing issue 3. I want to get it out to the public next month.
Awesome.
And I'm just like I just said, I'm in the process of building my brand, building my characters. It's not easy, you know. I have to remind myself that, you know, issue 1 is still spanking brand new to most people. They don't know who the Power Knights are or what it is. And I keep that in mind. You know, I don't want to ever lose sight of where I am, my position in life, because you can get ahead of yourself real easily, you know, because if you go on YouTube, you get a bunch of likes, right? You think you're on top of the world, and really no one knows who you are, you know? And you can't lose sight of that and get an arrogance about yourself. It's like, stay humble, keep your nose to the grind, and you still got to go out there and do the work of promoting yourself. And it's hard work. It's a lot of hours you have to put into it and still juggle real life, you know? And that's what's going on with me. You know, I think the last time I talked to you guys, I still had my day job. I no longer have my day job because I left. I took a leap of faith last summer. And so I'm kind of living on the edge right now. You know, I could sink or swim. You know, there's really no in between for me. So I have to succeed by any means necessary, or just give it up and go get a regular job. Right? I have that option, but my point of view is I could do that, and I'm under the pressure to do that for sure because you have bills and whatnot. But I'm like, well, one thing's guaranteed: I'm going to die one day. Yeah, I know that. I don't need a crystal ball to tell me that, right? So I'm like, well, since I'm here and I have to do something with myself, you know, I could sit on the couch and watch games all day, or I can pursue my dream and try to enjoy the process of getting there instead of being stressed about a 9 to 5. Like, that's the thing that was really like killing me. It's like, God, going home every day and dreaming about what I would like to do versus actually doing it. You know what I mean? And waiting for the perfect opportunity. Because originally that was my thing. Oh, I'm going to stay at this place for 10 years, 15 years, whatever. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do that. It's like, and life is like, nope, I don't think so. You're going to deal with whatever I throw at you. And so I don't recommend dreamers to procrastinate and wait for perfect opportunities to present themselves, because it doesn't happen that way. You have to kind of, you almost have to create your own door and walk through it, you know.
So what's been your biggest challenge at, you know, being sort of not having the 9 to 5 anymore and concentrating on your art?
Just financially, just knowing that when you have a job, you know that you're going to have a check on a certain date every month, and you can work and you can schedule things because of that. Whereas the situation I'm in now, I still have my obligations as far as paying my bills and debts and all that other stuff, right? That never stops. I just have to be what's the word?
Frugal.
Frugal. See, I don't even know the word. I have to be frugal, and I have to be strategic in the way I spend the money I do have, and
Disciplined.
and disciplined, and understand where I can make money. You know what I mean? And just hope and have faith that these things will work themselves out.
Right.
I think if I allow myself to get into some negative funk, and it happens sometimes, then I'm just inviting trouble. And I get unproductive because I can't even draw if I'm not comfortable, right? Like even if it's cold outside, I can't draw. Like I have to like get the room temperature right because I hate cold, so I have
Yeah.
to. I can't work when I'm not comfortable, So whether that's with the temperature or my mindset, and that was one of the problems I was having at my day job. The company was great, the people were great, but internally I was unsatisfied, and that hunger in me was growing day by day, right?
Right.
So mentally, I started separating from my day job. Like I was physically there, but mentally, I was starting to drift. And I was like, I knew I had to make a decision. Eventually, it was coming. Because I know myself. Like I had to just and I would hear people say it, including my mom's like, because my mom was like, you need to get a house. You need to, mom's all right. You need to get a house because it's a great investment, right?
Right,
And I was
right.
like, I know that, Mom. I just don't want any old house. I don't want to live any old where, right? And her thing is like, well, you figure it out as you go. And that concept was kind of foreign to me. I understood what she was saying, but at the same time, I didn't understand what she was saying. Of course, she's older than me, so she understands what she's saying. I mean, what she was saying is that you cannot wait for these perfect opportunities to present themselves, and you can't be afraid to go for what you want. And when problems happen, you cross the bridge when it's there. You cross the bridge when it gets there, and have faith that you'll get to the other side. Versus me just kind of being a little more timid and like, well, I'll cross the bridge if I have my parachute with me.
Right.
Just kind of approaching life that way. Kind of wasn't working, because you could do it. You do it for year after year after year, right? And you're not realizing 10 to 15 years has passed by, right? And your plan really isn't working. You know what I mean?
Right.
So maybe you need to shift gears, But you're so in the moment, you thinking that you've forgotten, you haven't realized how many years have actually passed by.
Yeah, it's the worst. Like you're 85 and you have all this regret.
Yeah, yeah. That's an old saying, but it's true. It's like you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And this is no knock against people who want to go work at Marvel or work at DC, and they want to work at these companies.
Of course.
I have nothing against people that are doing that or artists doing that. If that's what they want to do, then go for it.
Right. It's all about finding you and doing what's best for you.
I think Robert Kirkman had the same epiphany. Like he was working at Marvel, and he was like moonlighting on the side, doing his own thing, and then it's like, what am I doing? Like, I don't have to do this. I can go off and create Walking Dead and Invincible, and I'll be okay, But at the moment when you're making that decision, it's scary. It's like, because you don't know if you don't have a guarantee that it's going to work,
Of course.
But the payoff is bigger if it does work, right?
Yeah, it's paid off for him.
Yeah, it pays off big time. He's not even just an artist or a creator at Image. He's one of the executives there now.
Yeah, they brought him in as a partner.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's major.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw documentaries on him where he said he was a huge Image fanboy back in their heyday, back in the 90s. He was just a fanboy. He's like, I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to be part of Image. And now he's like really a part of Image, you know. But that was his vision. He put it out there. That's what he wanted, and he achieved it, you know.
One of our listeners, we follow each other on Twitter. Her name is Kim, but she goes by Kiasaurus on Twitter. She asked this question. How do you stay inspired, especially when the creative side of art can be difficult to balance with the business side?
Oh, how do I stay inspired? Love for the craft. I mean, there's a story, like, I got in trouble when I was a kid not doing my homework and working on my comic books, right? And my dad said, okay, he took all my art supplies, right? You need to do your homework. You need to focus on school. And you're not getting these supplies back. And you can't even draw until you get your grades in order, right? So the hunger was still there, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't stop. So I found a loophole in his rule. And what I did is I started making my own toys out of cardboard. I would make the blueprints and cut them up and make them work and functional. So creatively, I say, well, I'm not drawing comics, but I still get to create stuff. Uh-huh. So, and it was something, and it's because I had to do it, you know, like, even though I knew what I was scolded for, I couldn't stop. So to answer your question, I can't stop bills from coming, right? And I can't stop drawing comics or thinking about comics or just being creative. So that's the fuel to push through the hard times. That's what keeps me going, not the money. If it was just money, like, if I just needed money, I would be retarded to be getting into comics. Like, why would I do comic books if I needed money? That's one of the last things you want to do, because the money is not guaranteed and it's not great to begin with, right? Mm-hmm. So there's easier ways to make money. And so that, to answer the question, is you have to love it, man. You can't get into this business because it's too hard. It's too hard to succeed. It's hard just to even make a comic book, especially by yourself. So, if you don't really like it, or it's just kind of something you do every once in a while, I don't recommend getting involved professionally, because it's not a cakewalk. It's hard work.
Speaking about, I guess we can sort of segue into your collaborators at Kid Comics. Maybe you can give us a little introduction to who they are, and you can also tell us about the promotion that you guys are doing.
Let's see. Currently, there's William Tenner. He created the Dragonfly, which is on Kid. There's Chris Ward. He goes by CR Ward professionally. He's a writer. He created Vegas Baby. There's Roosevelt Pitt, who's a writer, and he created Purge. Pitt being more prominent than all of us because he had big success back in the 90s with his original run of Purge, mm-hmm. before I knew who he was. And I think he sold in excess of 1 million copies of that.
I think you may have mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
It was on through Image, right?
Huh?
It was through Image Comics?
No.
No?
He was one of the first indie. He was an indie guy.
Okay.
Yeah, Ania, I believe the company is called. Mm. It might have been called something else back then. My history is fuzzy on him. But it was during the early 90s. I don't know if you remember, but back in the early 90s, there was a big Afrocentric wave going on with the Spike Lee films.
Spike Lee joint?
Yeah, Spike Lee joint. That was a big deal back then.
Right.
The music, hip-hop was making itself known, mm-hmm. with the Public Enemy and Tribe Called Quest, and everyone's wearing African medallions and Malcolm X caps and all that stuff.
Cross colors.
Yeah, cross colors. There was like a whole independent spirit going on. So, and comics were a part of that as well, right? Mm-hmm. And the Milestone movement at DC. You guys remember Milestone Comics from DC, where Static Shock came from.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Static Shock was born in that era, and was a character called Hardware, Steel. I think
Oh yeah.
Shaq played that character.
Oh, that's right. From Death of Superman.
Yeah. And it was in, it was the zeitgeist of the moment, and there was a lot of social change going on too, especially. And I was living in L.A., so I was there during the riots. I was there for the whole. They had a major earthquake back then. I was in the center of that.
It was in Northridge, right?
Yeah, I was living in Northridge.
I think it was. Yeah.
I was right there in the center of that.
Wow.
And Nelson Mandela had just been released, and he came to L.A. to one of his first public speeches. We went to that. I was in college at the time, so a lot of that was going on, and that's when he released Purge in that era. So it was fresh back then. It was it's kind of like what's going on now with Marvel and DC with the whole diversity movement. But I think the difference is with Marvel and DC, their diversity movement is more, it's not exactly the way I would like to see it. They're more about taking established characters and changing the ethnicity or the gender.
Yeah.
And it's their business to do that, and I understand why they're doing it. But at the same time, would prefer if they just did all new original characters. I wish they did all new characters across the board, because I'm like in my 40s and I've seen enough Batman and Superman for a lifetime. Like, come on, man. I want to see something brand new that injects some energy into the industry.
Right.
If they would have said new 52 characters, oh man, let's go.
Make them new.
Yeah, because that's the excitement I had when Image first popped up. I was excited to see Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld and all those guys do their thing, but I was even more excited just to read new characters. Like, I was excited to see new characters. So when Wildcats, Youngblood, Cyberforce, and all this stuff came out, even though it wasn't the best writing in the world, the energy of it was new and exciting. You understand? So that's what I'm trying to do with Kid. Kid is about, we're a diverse company by default. But we are making a concerted effort to show characters who are considered minorities, whether they're black, whether they're women, whether they're some other ethnicity. But it doesn't exclude white America. It doesn't exclude them at all, right? It's just that we're not upfront about it. We're not like, it's not the focus of what we're doing. We're not like, hey, here's some black characters, or here's a white character, or here's a Hawaiian character, or here's we're not, what's the word? We're not preaching it. We're just living. We're just being who we are, and we're just putting characters out that are characters and first, and stories first, but they're reflective of the people who are creating it. You understand? Just like Marvel and DC were doing back in their day. They weren't thinking like, oh, we're just going to make an all-white roster. That was just their world. That was just their friends and their community and whatever, and what they wanted to see as artists, right? It's not a whole lot of deep thinking going on that, where people have all these damn long-ass debates about stuff. It's like, bro, you're giving some of these artists too much credit. They're not thinking that deep into it. They're just like, this is something they wanted to do and they just did it, and we're the same way. It's kind of like, I want to present a positive image for minorities, but at the same time, I'm not up here. That's not my actual agenda. My actual agenda is to entertain people, whoever that may be. And all the other social commentary is for the beholder, whoever has, if they want to make social commentary about what I'm doing, they're free to do that. But I'm not, I'm not going outside of myself to make a point for anybody, I guess. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be artificial. So you take me the way I am, or you don't take me at all. And that's the end of it, and that's how I approach people. I I accept people or don't accept people based on how they act toward me, or act toward other people. Like, I think assholes are in the world and will always be in the world, and that's what they are. That's their role. You're gonna find assholes everywhere, and they're always gonna be there. But I'm not gonna wake up and let them dictate who I am and dictate my mood for the day. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, did I get off on a tangent?
That's cool.
I forgot what the question was.
That's okay. We'll circle back.
Yeah.
I guess my original question was for you to, I guess, sort of tell us about.
The kid got the kid. Yeah. So yeah. I digressed. So there's what is it? So there's a total of 5 of us right now. 5 creators.
Right.
We're all owners of our own IPs.
Okay.
And Kid is just basically the umbrella. But I don't own any of their characters, and they don't own my character, right? But we do collaborate with each other to put out the best product. And we try to stay, even though we're indie, we want to present ourselves as professional as possible. The quality of the work and the way we conduct our business.
Now, I meant to ask you this last time we had you on, but is it a shared universe?
It is. It didn't start out that way, but I think organically it's starting to happen that way. Like right now in the new Power Knights book that's coming out, one of Chris's character, Vegas Baby, makes a short appearance. And I didn't originally write it that way when I first laid it out,
right?
The plot and the story. But there was a point in the story where it's like, oh, this would be a great scene to have him come into the story. And that's the way I prefer it. Like, I like I think if it's organic to us, it's going to be organic to the audience. And I think that's the best way to do it versus just like doing some artificial event,
I think last time you had talked about how C.R. Ward's going to be doing some co-writing for the next issue.
Yeah, he's working on this one.
Right. So you had talked about it, but now that you're going through the process, how has it been?
Well, it's been great. Him just being a writer by default, that being his actual trade, he brings a buoyancy and a dynamic to the writing that I may not necessarily have. Like a naturalness to some of the way it flows, and then not just writing what I want him to write, but also bringing ideas to this table. Like, well, instead of going left, let's go right. Like, instead of having the character do this, have the character do that, and I'll see something that wasn't immediate to me, like something I didn't see originally. Like, oh yeah, okay. Especially when it comes to problem solving, like instead of me just racking my brain all night and talking to myself, I have someone to bounce it off of, and I can get the problem solved a lot quicker because he's seeing stuff I may not necessarily see.
Right.
Understand? And of course he has visions that he wants to take the character this way, and I may not necessarily want to go that far. Like, I have to, being the creator of the characters, I may have to like, well, that sounds good, but that's not my characters. That's not where I want to take them. And it's the same thing with his character, because we have story meetings. All the guys will have Skype meetings where we'll go over story points, or we'll go over characters or issues we have, like what we think isn't working or is working. And we'll go at each other too. We'll have fights too about it, argue about stuff, and just be passionate. But after the meeting's over, it's always love. It's all good. And I think that's a good sign that when you argue about something, it means you have passion for it.
Of course.
As long as you're listening. If you're super closed-minded, what's the point of even having a meeting? So
how often do you guys meet?
Right now we meet maybe twice a month right now.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't live in the same states. Most of those guys are back east. I'm out here in California, so we have to do it through Skype.
So you're the only person west of the Mississippi, huh?
Yeah. I'm the Cali kid, West Coast representative. I've tried to get them out here. I'm like, I don't know why you guys wasting your time in that snow mosquitoes and all this stuff. Come out here.
But are you guys gonna go meet up at MechaCon or?
This year, I can't really say definitively right now.
Uh-huh.
I did physically meet Chris for the first time last year
Right.
at MechaCon, and that was shout out to Mia Crown Williams. She's the organizer of that, and she has one. I'll be at in LA June 25th.
That's something she's putting on?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's the spearhead of
Okay.
I don't know if it's called MechaCon or if it's going under different. It's not MechaCon, but it's basically MechaCon, but it's also it's not just comics. It's a cultural
Got it.
event.
And for those of our listeners who don't know what MechaCon is, it's a little small IndieCon in Detroit, basically.
In Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, based in Detroit. But she does shows. She has to show up in San Francisco, Oakland. I mean, gosh, I don't have it in front of me, but you can look her up on Facebook.
Yeah, we will.
And get the nitty gritty. Don't
Yeah, if she's
depend on my spotty memory.
especially if she's holding an event in LA in June. And that's probably
she's a necessary component for the indie crowd, and I wish there was more. And you guys too. You know, we need you guys because right now the big media people are focused on the big dogs, and they're not really paying a whole lot of attention to the indie crowd who are coming up. You know, unlike the film industry, I think the film indie crowd gets a little more love and attention, and they're watched a little closer by the bigger apparatus, but for us indie comic books, we're kind of just out here doing everything. Like we have to do the books, we have to do our own media, we have to do, our own promotions, and no one really comes to interview us unless they want to interview us. So shout out to you, Hall H.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, man.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Mia Crown, and just there's Rob Anderson, I think is Rob Anderson. He does. He's gonna kill me. Written Sin.
Written Sin?
Yeah, look up Written Sin on Facebook. He has his own comic, which is the he has it's the weirdest thing in the world, but he's an advocate for what is it? Is it Bondage?
Like S&M type stuff?
S&M?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, S&M. And I guess that he wants the stigma removed from people who are into that, as being weirdos.
Uh-huh.
So he actually wrote a comic book based on breaking that whole stigma down and basically normalizing that. I was like, okay, bro, go ahead. And he did the Kickstarter. He actually got funded. And but he's also a comic book fan. And he has his Written Sins. It's an avenue where he lets indie people get on and promote their material, and he does his own interviews as well.
Okay.
So shout out to him. And one of the first guys who ever even put me on their website was Al Kane. He's like a pro BMX bike rider.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know how he got mixed up into like his whole like cross-cultural stuff like comics and hip-hop and all this stuff, but he does. And he was one of the very first to put me on when I created Kid and first put it out there on Facebook.
Nice.
So
All right, we'll look him up.
Yeah, he did a feature on me. And but he's pretty known in the hip-hop crowd, and he does like interviews on, if you go on YouTube, you'll see he's done interviews with some of the legends out there in hip-hop.
Okay.
Shout out to him, Al Kane.
I guess before I forget, we can circle back to the promotion you guys are doing.
Yeah. So going back to promotion, we have a contest, guys. Are you aspiring comic book artists? It's a $400 grand prize, and all you have to do is do a pinup of four of our main characters. The details are on the website, kid-comics.com. And All we're looking for is you can do it anyway. You can do it in color. You can do it in pencil. You can do it in ink. Whatever you like to draw, do it whatever the way you want. There are guidelines as far as the size and the resolution, which you'll find on the website. And the only criteria is that you must draw four of our main characters, basically one character from each of our main books, as a pinup, as one piece. And if the winner gets $400, the people who do not win will basically be featured in the gallery on the website with a link to wherever link they want us to send people to. So if someone sees your image and they want to get to know more about you or buy your own, your materials, they can basically click on the image, and depending on the site that you guys give us, it'll go there. But we're going to feature all of you guys, but the winner gets the $400. So.
And when does the contest end?
And the deadline is the end of May. What's that? May 31st. Yeah, it's the end of May. That's the deadline to get it all in. And then the following 2 days, we'll have votes, Facebook voting. And work out the details of how the vote's going to go. But it'll be a public voting. It won't just be us in the office voting on you guys. So you can't get mad at us if you don't win. But I encourage you to do it, especially you guys who are trying to get on and get exposure. Here's a chance to have exposure, even if you don't win.
Right.
And that goes back to what I said. Like, if you're just trying to make a buck and you're trying to figure out all these angles and stuff, like, I don't understand that. Because when I was young and I was entering contests, I didn't win all the contests. I won a lot, but I didn't. There was some I didn't win. I didn't get anything out of it, but I did get exposure, and I did meet people, which led to other gigs and other things.
Right.
So I think it's something smart for any artist who wants to move the needle in their life to get involved into as many of these type of events as they can, because you never know who's going to see it. You never know who's going to see it, including us. Because like I said, if Kid gets to where I wanted to get to, and I see some of these guys, I see some fantastic work, it would behoove me to contact you in the future. So that's the way you should approach this. Don't just think, well, I need some type of guarantee. I need to get something out of it. Like, dude, I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to hear that.
So what do you want to see Kid get to in the next?
I want Kid to be a multimedia conglomerate. Like, I want it to be up there with the DCs and the Marvels of the world. I really do. And that's the way I see it. And I think it can get there if people get behind it, because I believe we have great material. I think we're going to have even better material as we go. And I think we're doing what the other guys aren't doing. We're not faking the diversity. We're not pushing agendas. We're just being who we are, So all those people out there complaining about this stuff, about the SJW, whatever, all this
Right.
stuff, the stuff that just irks the hell out of me. Here we are, Where if you whatever you're complaining, the people who complain about this stuff, we're the company for you, Now you may not like what we have to offer currently. But at the same time, you won't know if you don't like it until you get it, until you actually give us a chance, right? But if you're making these judgments based on stereotypes, so bad, so sad. Like, you're missing out, And this is the time to get involved while we're still young, while we're still accessible. Because I talk to people all the time, I talk to artists all the time about giving them advice or helping them along or whatever. I can't talk to everyone, obviously, but I do my best to do that, and it is what it is. But
Well, speaking about sharing your knowledge, how's your teaching gig going?
yeah, I just started teaching about a month ago. My first time ever being an actual paid teacher, at Platt College. And I teach a comic book course there. It's called Creating Comic Book Creation. It's the first of its kind at Platt. And it's basically was they had the Adam Kubert School in New York, which is pretty popular for comic book artists. But
Right.
since it's in New York, most people who have access to, I think most of their students are from the area because it's it's financially easier for them to do that.
Is it
But
Joe Kubert?
Joe Kubert.
Something like
What
that.
did I say? Adam.
Adam?
I said his son, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. Sorry, Joe. Joe Kubert. Yeah. So it's kind of like it. Basically, something like that. It's we basically go over the history of comics and the foundation of comic books as far as what's entailed in creating it, as far as the structure of it. We don't really get into teaching people how to draw. Like we're not doing like life drawing courses and stuff like that, right? This is more about knowing how to do proper sequential storytelling, like how to frame a scene, how to chop up your page in an effective manner. The terminology, what is a panel versus a caption versus a word balloon versus safe space versus a bleed versus what is a splash page, so on and so forth. Get into that stuff and how to make your poses more dynamic. What's the psychology behind that? And then we get into color theory, how to color something effectively, versus just going by the numbers instead of why. Yeah, we know the sky is blue. We know grass is green. That's boring. How can you make it more emotional?
Right.
Maybe the sky should be red instead of blue in this scene.
So how's this class positioned in the curriculum? Is it degree? Will it eventually lead to a degree, or is it like a?
Right now, it's not part of their bachelor's program. It's I forgot the technical term, but it's
Almost like an elective type.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's not part of tuition either. It's like you pay outside of the school.
It's like UCSD's extension program.
That's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking. Extension program, exactly. And it's for 8 weeks. I think that's longer than most classes. Most classes are 6 weeks. But you're going to more than one day. Right now, it's currently 1 day a week.
Okay.
For 8 weeks, and we're kind of it's a test bed right now. So depending on the success of this class, they'll expand the program. And I believe we already have a summer program lined up for high school students.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I'll be doing that also. And just taking my many years of experience and passing it on. And the cool thing about this class is, I don't think people know, is that we're actually making a comic book. So everyone's
as a class project.
Yeah, it's an anthology. Everyone makes their own short story, but it's going to be brought together under one book, like Heavy Metal Magazine. That's what we're doing. Cool. So they're learning, but at the same time, it's real time. Like you have to have an actual book at the end of this course. You're going to have a book in your hand that you created, that you can use as a portfolio piece, that you can show to people, whatever you want to do. And the school has something for itself as well. And right now we're going with the title of the book is called Platology.
That's so nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a play on anthology. So
Platology.
yeah, Platology. But the individual stories have their own titles and their own obviously their own creators. So I'm excited to show people what they're doing, because
we're excited.
what I've seen, it looks good. Like what
Awesome.
I've seen, they came along really well. So.
Do you use some of your current Power Nights as examples of what you're teaching in class?
Or do you keep that think separate? In the beginning of the class, I let them know, I showed them my work, so that they know that they're working with someone who walks the walk.
Yeah.
But we go over like I said, we go over historical things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talked to them about Jack Kirby and his contribution to the art form and why he's important.
Mm-hmm.
We go over Will Eisner, why he's important. We go over historical things, like at the time that the comic book industry was almost destroyed because of congressional pressure back in the 40s or 50s, I believe, because they thought the comics were corrupting children's minds. And this, I forgot the guy's name, but some psychologist like actually got all the way up to Congress to put pressure on the comic book industry to be disbanded, kind of like Prohibition. So, which brought on the Comics Code Authority. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where that was spawned from. So we kind of go over that also, and just so that they get some intellectual meat to what they're doing, because I believe in America, people still a large contingent of people here who look at comics as children's fare, and they don't understand the social impacts that comics have had over many, many, many years now, all the way up to what's going on now. They're the biggest movies in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of weird, right? It's weird that all these people who don't collect comics are there day one when the movies come out, you know? Yet there's still no correlation between the movies and the books. Like, these same people don't make that trip to the comic book shop and buy the books.
And that's one thing that we try to do is, obviously, when you're at San Diego Comic-Con Hall H, is, you know, the big mainstream studios are, but we always try to encourage people, have fun at Hall H, but try to pass by Artist Alley.
Artist Alley, yeah,
as well.
I feel you. Yeah, it used to be like that. Like when I told you, my dad took me to my first one. That's how it was. It was small. It was at the old San Diego Convention Center over there by 4th and B.
Golden Hall.
Yeah. And it was, you could sit there and talk to Frank Miller and John Byrne and those guys and not be pressured to get out of the way, you know, or have any big security guys kind of telling you to move along. But back then it was more intimate. You know, I think WonderCon was like the last big bastion of being able to do that. You know, I haven't been to WonderCon in a while, but I don't know if they've gotten to the point where they can't be as intimate anymore. But that helped me get that gig, because I could sit there and talk about what my aspirations and show them my work, and with a real editor who had real power versus just some guy. You don't know what he is. You know, he might just be somebody's friend trying to push you along like, oh, yeah, Jim Lee will be here soon. Yeah, you get lost.
Well, obviously, when you get to that level, like talking to the creators like Jim Lee even at a convention like WonderCon.
Jim Lee owes me an interview. I'm not kidding. Jim Lee, I went, I don't know, 7 years ago or something crazy like that. They had Image. Was he at Image still?
I think so.
I think it was at Wildstorm. Like Image, he was at Wild. Yeah, I think it was still at Image. But they did this. I don't know if it was a contest, but they had 10 slots. 10 slots. If you show your work to one of the editors at the table, right at the Image table, and we put your name on the list, and we're gonna pick 10 of you guys to have a personal meeting with Jim Lee to go over your work, portfolio review. I was one of the 10, right? That was on a Friday, I remember. And I went home like, oh man, I'm going to meet Jim Lee. I'm going to talk to Jim Lee, right? So get my stuff together, go in Saturday, expecting this meet where they tell me to meet and all sorts of stuff. And apparently, no fault of Jim Lee's. He wasn't aware of it. He wasn't aware that they set this up. So he had not allotted any time for it. So the whole thing was canceled. And that's why I say, Jim Lee, every time I think of Jim Lee owes me an interview, man. But I didn't make a stink about it. It was kind of like, it was kind of like the way my life was. You know, it's kind of one of those things where like, typical. So it's kind of one of the things that pushed me into creating my own thing, doing my own things, because I just got tired of waiting for the green light from other people. It's like, and I think, you guys know who Mike Richardson is?
No.
The owner of Dark Horse?
I'm not familiar with him.
Well, you know Dark Horse Comics, right?
Yes.
Hellboy and all that stuff.
Right.
I had met him years ago when I was like 20 or 21 years old, right? And I was with these older gentlemen who were partners of mine. Well, they had created a character called Black Thunder. It was a guy who had the power of sound, right? And they brought me in, right? And they showed me the design that they had, right? And oh my God. It was actually a dude. It was a black guy, right? The character was black, right? He actually had a radio stuck in his chest. And that was the design they had. Now, and they brought me on to make better drawings of this character, right? And I was like, dude, a radio on his chest, right? And I was like, that's corny. That's not gonna. I like the power of sound. There's a lot you can do with that, but this whole like radio, we got knobs and stuff. It was stupid looking, right? And they weren't comic book artists, but at the time, remember I told you there was a wave going on at the time, right? The whole Afrocentric wave going on, right? These guys were just basically exploiting what they thought they understood.
Yeah.
And so I redesigned the character, made him look cool, got rid of the stupid radio and gave him like basically these sound vents, these vents where the sound could emanate from. And I made him look, he had like more of an armored, slick look. And we went around Hollywood or LA, all the major studios. We went to Disney, we went to Warner Brothers, we went to Paramount. They had connections with these people. So I met a bunch of huge people that could basically change my life overnight. Right? Real powerful people looking at this stuff. We always got positive feedback. And then we went to dark, but no one was really biting yet. No real bite on it yet. We went to Dark Horse, who had a film division at the time. And I forgot what movie they put out. Maybe Crow. Was Crow part of Dark Horse?
I'm not sure.
I think they had some movie out there from Dark Horse back in the early 90s.
It could be.
But I went in there, Mike Richardson was there, and he liked what we had. He was impressed. And they were like, hey, man, let's do this. We'll get started tomorrow. We're going to give you guys a 1-issue graphic novel, the full color, slick, everything of what was it called? Black Thunder?
Black Thunder.
Yeah. And so I went home thinking, I did it. We're in, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's we're gonna have the contract drawn up, and I'm gonna draw the hell out of it, and we're gonna make a movie and all this stuff, right? And never heard from him again since that day, right?
Uh-huh.
And so years and years went by, and I ran into Mike at San Diego Comic-Con, and he was like, he had remembered me, and he apologized for what had happened. He said the industry had went through a crash. They canceled a lot of projects, and it just wasn't, we just basically put on the chopping block as far as things they were going to do.
Right.
And it's like, okay, all right. Well, at least I know now, because I didn't know. For years, I didn't understand what the deal was. Like, I'm thinking, was it something I said? But in the course of that conversation, I think I had met with him again, maybe a couple of years later. I said, hey, Mike, how's it going? How you doing? And I told him I don't know what, we got into a conversation about what I was doing with myself. And he's basically stopped me. He said, Keithan, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to make comics. Okay, then do it. I'm not stopping you. No one's stopping you. You want to make comics, make them. And it's kind of like, sounds like obviously, right?
Right.
But at the time, it was kind of like, bing. Yeah, no one is stopping me. Why am I sitting here begging to work with Dark Horse when I can just go home and just do it? Because Dark Horse technically is an independent indie themselves, right?
Right.
And they were nobodies at some point, and they just got up and just did it. So he was kind of like, basically, that's what he was telling me at that moment. He was like adamant. He was like, look, man, there's nothing stopping you from doing what you want to do. You have the talent. Just do it. And when you get something together, bring it to me. Because he was honest. He was like, I'll exploit it because I want to make money. And if I can make money from your product and you can make money from it, I'm with it. But you gotta bring me something. you know,
Right.
and that was that. And then like a few years later, here's Kid, you know.
That's awesome. So I've always wondered, how do you stay current, like both in style and substance when it comes to your art and stories?
How do I stay current?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I hope that I'm current. I don't know that I am. I hope that I am. Just kind of go with my gut. I'm always involved in the culture anyway, so I still collect comics. Not as heavily as I used to.
So what are the top 3 comics that you're into right now?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Because it's sporadic. I don't think I follow anything religiously anymore.
What was the last 3 that you read right now?
I like Ed Brubaker's book, Kill or Be Killed, I think it's called. That's a good book. That's an indie book. More indie stuff versus Marvel and DC. I really haven't been jazzed by what's going on in Marvel and DC. Like, it's okay, but it doesn't really get my boat floating. It's not floating my boat right now. It's like, and I don't know if that's because I've been seeing this stuff so long, and no matter what events they come up with, it's like I've seen it already a million times. So I'm not as excited as maybe someone who's younger.
Right.
So I can't say I've been on. What's the last Marvel? I think the last Marvel book I bought, maybe this X. I think there's some X-23 Logan crossover book they just put out. I forgot the name of it. It was okay. I bought the latest Iron Man. He's a girl now, right?
Right.
I read that over. It's all right. But as far as impressing me, I was impressed by Ed Brubaker's work.
Okay, we'll look that up.
Kill or Be Killed. There was another book I really liked. Indie books. Gosh. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. I have bad memory, guys. Definitely not mainstream stuff though. Like what I want from Marvel and DC, I just want something new. You know, I like the main roster and I love the movies. But as far as the actual comics themselves, I want to see brand spanking new characters. You know, I want that Jack Kirby, Stan Lee era where when they were pumping out, like, you have to remember when those guys were active, they were pumping out Thor and Spider-Man and the Hulk and the X-Men, and that stuff was bam, 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 right? There was a synergy going on. There was excitement going on because the characters were great, but they were also new. You know, you go to the comic book store and you're like, oh, what am I going to, you know, what are these guys going to do next? It's kind of the energy that people are feeling from the films, right? We're excited to see new characters pop up in the films and see how they handle them, like Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, that was a reach. That was a chance that was a real chance that they took on that film. Because I didn't even know who Guardians of the Galaxy were. Like, I saw them around, but I didn't care about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Even it was a little bit different than what I remember. I mean, like, I remember Yondu. I remember.
You knew more than me. Like, Rocket Raccoons. I knew Rocket Raccoon, but I didn't know he was a Guardian.
I didn't know either.
You know, I knew Howard the Duck. You know, I remember back in the day, but I don't know the history of any of these characters. So whatever they do to them in the films, I'm going to accept. You know, but when it comes to Spider-Man, the Hulk, Captain America, whatever you do in the films, I'm going to look at it with a critical eye because I know those characters. You know. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm like, Minos and Marvel and those guys, I know they have their shareholders and they have their bottom line they have to meet every month. And they have to keep those main guys circulated. And I'm not saying stop printing those, but at the same time, give us an older fan, something new to chew on.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, I'm like, if they don't do it, that leaves an opportunity for me.
Right, exactly.
I'll do it, you know. So I'm not praying that they do. I'm kind of like happy that they're not doing it because it gives me an opportunity to make a name. Mm-hmm. So, Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I can't. I don't really have an answer for you as far as what I've been collecting because it's been sporadic. I just go in there and see if anything catches my eye.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat.
And right now, most of it doesn't catch me, and that's crazy. I go into a comic book shop. I'm like, there's hundreds, thousands of comics in here, and I'm walking out with two. And they're expensive.
Yeah.
I do have a gripe about that. I think they're just like, damn, dude, what are they? Almost $5 now?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. $5. I can only buy 2 or 3 without,
That's why I'm sort of waiting for the trades to come out so I can catch up and just buy it
Yeah,
a little bit, because you're a little bit cheaper if you buy the trades.
Yeah,
versus
and
the
I don't
single issues.
know if that's something they have to do. Like I don't know if that's a pressure on them to make them that expensive, or they just feel that they can sell it at that price point. Like,
And I would think
don't know.
I would think that digital comics would be a little bit cheaper, but
They're not.
yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, you're not paying for printing,
Yeah, and I've recently heard some rumblings that the sales are down, and there's this whole controversy going on that the diversity movement hurt their sales, and I'm like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all because Miles Morales did great, right?
right?
And some other stuff did fine. I just think you got a combination of highly priced comics versus just not appealing enough. But as far as like, oh, it's because of the diversity thing. But the reason you went with that is because your sales are low to begin with. Because you're trying to reach out to an audience that that you weren't catering to. So you were in trouble before, if you want to call it trouble, you were in trouble before you started the diversity movement. So to me, I don't accept that excuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what's going on with Ghost in the Shell. Like, people are like, oh, it's because of Scarlett Johansson, the movie flopped. I'm like, well, some people cite that as a reason, but at the end of the day, the movie probably just sucks, because if it's good, it'll rise above controversy. People are just, they'll gripe about it, but if it's good, it's good, So, and from what I heard, I have not seen Ghost in the Shell, the movie. I know the anime and I love it, but the live action, what I've heard, it's just not a very good movie.
Mm.
And that's the real problem. Yeah.
Is there anything else about Kid Comics you want to talk about before we go to Art Watch?
Yeah, whoever's listening to this podcast, I encourage you guys to go to our site, buy our books, enjoy our books, tell people about our books, because I think you're going to like the books. I think the books are well made. I think they're well written. I think the new books that are coming out are even better. We kind of, like any new company, we stumble as we come out. Nothing's perfect. We learn as we go, but I do believe it's a company worth supporting, because when the ultimate goal is to give back, I don't want to sit at the drawing table for the rest of my life. I'm not going to have the energy to do that, right? And I don't want to. I like giving other people opportunity, other artists, to shine, an opportunity to shine. But I do have ways. I do always want to be there to guide them and show them how to do it, how to take what they're already doing and make it better. So I want Kid to be that place where people get that shiny new thing, And I'm not really trying to hone in on Marvel's pie or DC's pie. I think there's enough pie to go around. And I just want you guys out there to give us a chance and not just be so close-minded, and not get caught up into this negativity that's basically part of like what the online experience is like. It's almost like it's a religion to be negative now. It's like, come on, guys, chill on that stuff. Get back into your person. Get back to being people and individuals, and not being afraid to take chances on things, and start and get out of this whole group think,
Right.
And experience life, experience new things. And we're vibing for your attention, And I think we're worth it. you know, and most of our books are $3.99 plus shipping. So I try to keep it, you know, you can get our book. I know you can get my book for the price you would pay for your $5 for a comic book now, and that includes the shipping. So it's not like for whatever you pay for that when you go to the comic book store and you buy a Marvel or DC book or whatever book, that includes the shipping with my books. So you're gonna get everything, and I generally include extras like posters and other little goodies in the package. So I try to. I'm a fan of packaging. Back in the day, like when you get the gold package or the silver package, and you get all this good stuff in, you know, all this collectible stuff. I'm a big fan of that stuff. So I like the experience to extend to the mailing portion of it too. So you're not just going to get an envelope with a comic here. You're not, you're not going to get that. You're going to get the whole shebang and be part of the whole kid thing. Oh, and there's also shirts we had to get. And my man Aaron here's got one on now. You might see it on his Instagram. The black shirts with the white kid logo, which is really cool. Those are always on sale through the site, and I'll have those at my convention appearances also.
Yeah, I try to wear it whenever I can.
Yeah. So we're trying to get some hoodies made up.
Oh,
also.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, guys. So to the comic book community and the comic book readers out there, this is Kid. We're at kid-comics.com. We appreciate any support that you guys give us. We try to give back. We give love to other indie creators as well, and we welcome all comers. There's no prejudices on our side, and we're just excited to be doing this. We love doing it, and we're excited to hear your feedback and to basically entertain you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
And which is one reason why we wanted to invite you back to the podcast, because, I mean, after getting to know you since San Diego Comic-Con last year, I mean, we appreciate, the positive vibes that you guys are putting out from Kid Comics. So we want to support you as much as we can.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And right back at you, Hall H. Shout out to Hall H. And I'm hoping to see, maybe I'm flipping the channels and I see the TV broadcast one day.
That'll be cool.
Hall H show. Yeah, because I see you guys. Actually, I hope you. I'm serious about that, because like if I go to IGN, for instance,
right,
and I'll make this quick, but IGN and one of the I forgot his name. One of the representatives from IG.com or IGN. I'm sorry, is it IGN? IGN.com. They have a comic book section, but he was saying that it's not really robust. Like it's not. They don't really have anyone on staff that's deep off into comics, and they don't really devote a whole lot of attention to it. And I don't know if that's because they don't believe it's going to get a lot of attention or what, but there needs to be a main hub where indie and pro people can go to get the latest comic book news, and not just about the comics. Because right now on IGN, it's more about this comic is coming out next week, and here's our review. And I'm like, I want to read about the creators. Right. I want to know why did you create this book? Who are you? Where do you come from? What inspired you? And I not just read it. I want to see video. I want to see these people's faces. Like I want to see these people. Mm-hmm. I want to hear from them. And I think a lot of the pro guys don't understand that people want to know you guys. You guys are a little too secluded. And I know you're shy. Some of you are shy, but some of you are just like grouchy. I don't know what it is, but it's like you got a whole. You got to be part of the community, man. Just like the movie industry, like everybody gets jazzed about the panels, right? We get to see the cast of Star Wars, and we get to hear them talk. And how did you feel when you got the call to play this role? And it's the same with comics. Like I want to know, John Romita, how did you feel about going to DC, dude? Like, how did that make you feel? Like being at Marvel all these years, and not just read it. I want to see the video interview. I want to see can I see your workspace? Right. And yeah. I know some of the older guys feel like they hate that stuff. They hate social media. They hate the invasiveness of it all. But it is what it is, So I think it helps.
Yeah, I mean, I love hearing other people's stories.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And that, so if, maybe God willing, Hall H can be that one day. You guys have our actual media that encompasses this world, this geek culture, because right now it's to me, it's a little fragmented, as far as you got this, everyone's doing it individually, but not sure if anyone's put it all together yet. And
Right.
IGN is more of a video game and big boy stuff, in the comic book industry. It's like getting raped over here. It's like, excuse the choice of words, but it's banking all the billions of dollars for these people who are outside of the culture.
Right.
And I'm like, dang, man, I'm asking for $3.99 out here. And people complaining. But they're dropping like, what, almost $20 a ticket for a 3D experience, So, and it's based on comic books. You understand what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It's flipped upside down right now. It's like, come on, man. But yeah. Anyway, that's my rant.
We should make that a new segment on the podcast. Keithan's rants. I guess we can go to our watch. Usually it's part of our podcast where we give a shout out to an artist or other artists that we follow. And an artist can be anyone: creative, artist, writer, photographer, cosplayer, etc. Do you have anybody for this episode, Alex?
For me, since we're going to Silicon Valley next weekend, I like to put a shout out to Lord Mesa. He does a lot of Flash, Arrow, Supernatural, little comic or drawing illustrations, and it looks like he's real popular with that, and a lot of people like that. So shout out to Lord Mesa. He's going to be at Silicon Valley, Artist Alley. And another one is Ben Russell. He's I digged his Logan illustration he just put out. He's a big horror fan. He was at Monster Palooza in Pasadena. Has a lot of illustrations, prints for sale, and he's going to be at Silicon Valley too. So I think they're both originally from the Bay Area.
When you say Silicon Valley, what do you mean?
Silicon Valley Comic Con.
They have their own Comic Con?
They had it. First time was last year.
Really?
Put together. They try to combine technology and pop culture.
Wow.
In those two venues.
Who is the spearhead of that? Like, who put that
It
together?
was originally, I think, Big Comics, that Big Comics event. And then I think
Steve Wozniak.
Steve Wozniak and a group.
From Apple.
Really?
Yeah.
He put...
Yeah.
Wow.
He's one of the partners in putting that together.
Is he a comic book collector? Do you guys know?
I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with his history.
No, he was. I went to a panel where he talked about technology and virtual reality with the Oculus founder, and I think he just wanted to combine the two.
I think it's mostly pop culture and technology,
and how almost they're kind of interrelated. A lot of geeks and technology, and a lot of nerds and geeks.
I mean, that's cool
comics.
to have a heavyweight like that.
Yeah.
To be involved in our world. Because those guys, oh man, it's just like, I just wish I really knew one of those guys. So I can dude, there's so much you can do, right? There's so many with your power and the money and your reach and notoriety. Like, there's so many things you could do with this industry that's not being done that would give us a little more spotlight, And I don't know, I just feel like we're always under.
While we're there, we'll probably check out some new technology that might how we could combine the two.
Usually they go to the video game side of things, not the comic book side.
Yeah,
because the technology lends itself to games and virtual reality and whatnot.
Well, there's a pretty cool company since we're talking about technology and also comic books. I think there's a company called Madefire, and they're sort of combining the motion comic books, sort of taking it to the next level. So I find that pretty interesting.
I don't know about it. I'm a purist. I don't know about it.
Right.
To me, it's that.
Yeah.
To me, once you start moving motion is not comics anymore. It's whatever. It's something else. It's its own thing. Yeah. It's almost like limited animation. It's like it's either comics or it's films, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, but that's
Yeah, that's a whole another debate for another podcast.
it's been around for a while. Motion comics have been around for a while, and I don't
And
think
Marvel had a few motion
it hasn't really
comics.
taken off. And I think because I think if someone's looking for a film, they're just going to get a film. They're just going to look at film.
They want a comic book. They'll get a comic book.
that in between thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's maybe good for instructional manuals and stuff like that, or showing people how to do something. You know, in that sense, I think it's great. But I'm not sure about. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some major hit one day and change my mind. But I don't know.
Interesting. It's pretty interesting. I mean, just look up madefire.com, I believe. I'll put the links on the show notes.
That's the name of the comic?
The company that's the name of the company that puts it together for other creators.
Yeah.
So,
what do you guys feel about trailers for comics?
Trailers for comics.
Yeah, advertising comics as using the trailer format.
I think DC kind of does a little bit of that on their Instagram. Yeah, that's. I mean, it gets you interested. It's kind of like, I think it's effective because it's just like with a movie. You know, with this, you know how they put the scenes together. You know, catches your eye and you want to go see the movie. So if they do something similar with a comic book, you know, people might want to get interested and get hooked and check it out.
Let's say trailers were a big thing. I mean, that's what I mean with like the people with the power, they can really go all out with comic book trailers for a comic book because they have the means and the budgeting to do something like that. But I don't necessarily see Marvel and DC like really pushing it, and I'm wondering wonder why they're not doing that. If they tried it and they don't think it's viable, or it just doesn't cross their mind.
Maybe it could be a combination of both.
You know?
Yeah.
And because I don't know if you remember, maybe you guys are younger than me, right?
We're same age.
I'm a little bit younger.
Remember? Did you ever watch the G.I. Joe cartoon?
Yeah, of course.
Do you remember the G.I. Joe commercials for their comics?
I don't remember that.
See, that was a big deal back then. Like during the commercial breaks, G.I. Joe, the latest issue of G.I. Joe for that month had a actual animated commercial for it. Like they actually animated scenes, high quality animation and short little scenes from the comic book. And then at the end of the commercial, they would show the cover of the comic book with this burst behind it, issue 23 out now or next month or whatever. And you with your bowl of cereal, you're like, I'm getting that.
Well, I know technology-wise now, there's a lot of like sort of like video graphics coming into play, like on Instagram, and there's a lot of companies who are doing that now. Taking apart a photo, for example, and then sort of animating certain parts of it.
Yeah.
So if you lend that to
like a filter of some type,
sort of, but basically they take static images but animate certain parts of it.
Right.
So basically, it's the same thing. What happens?
Anime.
Yeah. Basically, if you can think about that, using that same technology for the trailers for comic books, then
I'm actually thinking of doing a trailer for Power Nights 3 before I drop it.
Cool.
But like I said, it's a balance. Like, should I do full on short little animated scene? And of course, that would take me a little while to put that together because I wouldn't want it to look crappy. But at the same time, I'm trying to sell a comic book and not an animated episode. Like,
Right.
I don't want
you don't want to mislead people.
I don't want to dilute it either.
Yeah.
I don't want to dilute the importance. Like, I want people to collect comic books and like books because I like books. I don't want to. I don't want it to be something that it's not. It's not a movie. It's not an animated movie. So it's a book, and I don't want to hide the fact that it's a book. But at the same time, I'm thinking trailer might be cool, but I got to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we're still on Art Watch, so do you have any more artists, Alex?
I think just those two.
Okay.
Lord Mesa and Ben Russell.
Cool. How about you, Keithan? You want to rep out any artists out there?
Me outside of my crew.
You can rip your crew again. It's cool.
Artists. All right, watch. I always, and I think he's underrated, and he deserves more for what he's done. I always have a hard time pronouncing his name, but he's the creator of Brother Man. Daewoo, Baba Daewoo, his last name's so difficult for me.
Maybe Alex can look it up real quick.
Daewoo, it's African. Diable. Gosh, I'm so bad at this.
What's the name of the?
But the book is called. He's like an independent pioneer, and he created the book called Brother Man.
Brother Man,
and that's been around since the early '90s, maybe late '80s, early '90s.
Wow.
And, he had a very successful run, and he's like a truly independent comic book creator, and he's been doing that for the last 20-some years, 20, 30 years. And he recently released Brother Man Revelations, his latest, and it's a graphic novel format. And he's currently working on issue 2 of that. Yes. And Daewoo and I have it in front of me. I still can't pronounce it. Anyabwile, Anyabwile. And forgive me for butchering your last name, my brother, but the book is called Brother Man.
Yeah, we'll put it up on the website so you can see the spelling.
And Weeblay or something like that. Daewoo and Weeblay.
Anyabwile?
Yeah, you said it better than I did.
Anyabwile?
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, my African roots have been erased. My tongue is gone. Everything. 400 years gone.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely put that on the show notes.
But yeah, shout out to him. His art is sick. Like that was like when I first was exposed to his work. It's just like one of my favorite artists. Just a natural flow to his line work and facial features, and just in the detailing that he puts in the backgrounds is off the charts. Love his work, and but I do think he's underrated as far as his contribution to comic books in general, and a representative of African American comic book artists. Like he's up there. Who else? Shout out to my man Bobby Rubio.
There you go.
Always. He and I grew up together here in San Diego. He has an indie comic called Alcatraz High and Foregone Conclusion, and that's my Filipino brother. And he and I used to battle each other all the time, drawing. We try to one up each other every day, bringing some type of drawing to work to see who could top each other. But he's currently one of the storyboard artists at Pixar. He started out at Disney, and he's now at Pixar. And I'm actually going to be sharing a table with him at San Diego Comic-Con this year.
Sweet.
And yeah, that dude's been in my life ever since junior high school. He and his wife. And he's good people. He's a great artist. And I always consider, I don't know if I told him, but I always considered him the original Jim Lee. Because if you saw his work back in high school, it was hardcore, man. Like, it was super detailed. It was raw, and it was drawn well. But it had, like, you know how Jim Lee was known for details and drawing, like, realistically? That was Bobby. Like that, he was, like, doing that kind of work back then, you know, and I always admired him for that. And I just think, in general, the stuff he and I were creating, we were already there, like what was going on with the mixture of cybernetics and superheroes and stuff like that. We were doing that stuff way back in the mid 80s or late 80s, because both of us were huge anime fans. We were heavy into Macross. So what we did was we took a lot of Robotech and mecha stuff, and we mixed it with our love of the Teen Titans and George Perez and Marv Wolfman.
Right.
So we created characters that had that mixture going on way before like Mark Silvestri Cyberforce. We already created that stuff, dude. That was old hat to us by the time they got around to it. So, and of course, nobody knows, but I'm telling you. So, yeah, but he's moved on to in a more animated style now. So, and sometimes I kind of miss his old hardcore stuff, but he's still a great artist.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. And I don't know. Other than my own guys, I like I said, I want you to check out The Dragonfly by William Tenner. I think it's very interesting. He's totally into extraterrestrial area. What is it? 51 conspiracy stuff. He's
X-Files,
heavy into that
X-Files.
stuff, X-Files, all that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that's your book. And then my man Chris Ward, C.R. Ward, he's one thing about Vegas Baby now, and we're still having meetings about this. Vegas Baby, and you guys haven't seen it yet. Issue 2 and 3 are basically done, right? But those books are super raunchy. I mean, they're adult books, right? So there's some stuff in there that we're like, hey, Chris, we're trying to figure out how we're going to present this to the public, right? Because we can't even show you some of those pages. We can't even show you previews of, and I don't want to censor him, and I don't want to curtail anything that he's doing, but we're trying to bring the adult comic book back into the fold under Kid, because most of our books are a general audience, but
maybe you can start a new company called Man Comics.
well, right now it's called Kid Mature. It's called Kid Mature, but
there you go.
yeah, it's definitely not for children. So don't get Vegas Baby for any of your kids. Just but it's definitely it's like Tarantino. If Tarantino were to do a book,
got it.
yeah. So it's a lot. Shout out to Chris, and but we're gonna get it out to you guys, and hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. So
Sweet. Anybody else?
not off the top of my head.
Cool. We'll save it for the next one.
Yeah, we'll save it up for sure.
I guess for me, there's an artist in the UK. Her name is Rachel Stott. She's a current artist on Doctor Who comic book. She's done stuff for Star Trek. She's worked for publishers IDW, DC, Image, and Titan. And on Twitter, she goes by Rachel at Work. That's RACHAELATWORK. And she has a Tumblr website. It's rachelstott.tumblr. That's TUMBLR, no E.com. And her stuff is pretty awesome, and she's really funny online. She has a pretty interesting sense of humor. And she always posts a lot of cool stuff, a lot of stuff that she's working on some random stuff as well. So it's always cool to see what she's working on Twitter. Next artist I want to put the shout out to is Greg Pak. He's a comic book artist. He's working on Totally Awesome Hulk, Weapon X, Planet Hulk. His Twitter handle is Greg Pak. That's GREGPAK. And his website is the same thing, GREGPAK.com. And of course, Star Wars, is all a buzz. We got Star Wars Celebration going on in Orlando. And Alex Ross, he started posting some Star Wars stuff that he recently did. Most notably, the Darth Vader with stormtroopers in the background. I saw them on Twitter.
R.I.P. to Carrie Fisher.
R.I.P. to Carrie Fisher.
For sure.
Definitely. And that was a pretty sick piece. So I want to give a shout out to Alex Ross, who, interestingly enough, he follows me on SDCC Fit for some reason. So That's pretty cool. Awesome. So his Twitter handle is the Alex Ross Art. That's the and Alex Ross Art. His website is alexrossart.com. So please check out these artists, and you won't be disappointed. I guess we can move on to the Thunder Round. It's for some quick off the beaten path questions. I guess, Keithan, if real life was a cartoon, what cartoon universe would you want to live in?
Oh, that's dangerous. Me as my normal self in the world of cartoons? Like,
right.
Where would I survive? I would pick a pretty benign universe so I don't get killed. That's weird. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I think yesterday I was thinking, what,
I
can
think
I
I think
survive in Star Wars world? Because I would like to go there, but would I be able to survive
like for me last time, I guess I had Transformers in the brain, so I said Transformers like G1. So that's where I wanted. Probably want to be
in that world?
in that world.
Yeah, I definitely have to be in the Star Wars universe, and I have to fly the Millennium Falcon.
Well, of course, that'd be cool.
And I'm hoping that when they have Star Wars Land at Disneyland, man, they better have a full size replica of the Millennium Falcon that I can walk into, sit in there, take my picture or whatever. I got to do that, man. I got to walk into, you know what I mean? Like, that's a dream. Or an X-Wing.
So, I guess for my next question, have you watched Iron Fist?
Most of it.
Okay.
A little over half of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we sort of talked about it last episode, but I kind of want to get your take on it. What do you think about it?
It's okay. I don't think it's as bad as people are saying it is. Like, they got a lot of negative comments about it, and I'm like, it's Iron Fist. Like, to me, he's one of those characters that most people didn't know anything about anyway. So I don't understand where all this critiquing is coming from. Like, you guys weren't even thinking about Iron Fist. But, I have all these opinions about him now. I just thought it was okay. I didn't think it was particularly bad or particularly great. It just, it's all right. I do think he came off a little too naive for me, the character. Mm-hmm. Like, the predicaments he found himself in. And
I thought he was too whiny.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, just
for training all those years.
Yeah, he just was a little too naive for someone who's been hanging around monks for so many years and has these abilities, right?
Right.
And his way of trying to convince people what happened to him was a little offhand. Like, of course these people think you're nuts. Who goes up to people and tell them that they were in another dimension learning kung fu, and that's where they've been, and you don't expect them. You expect them to believe you. It's weird.
I said this last episode, but I thought the Ward Meacham character was actually a more compelling character.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
I thought the show was almost really about them.
Yeah,
the whole family, and he was kind of the side character.
Yeah, So what about the whole controversy with Danny Rand not being Asian?
See, that part it didn't cross my mind, because as long as I've known Iron Fist, he was always a white dude.
Right.
So I didn't know where it was coming from until I did a little more research, and I guess they're saying that when it was originally created, they were basically trying to exploit the whole kung fu wave back that was going on in the 70s or whatever.
Right.
And they, instead of just going with an Asian lead, they basically did what they did with David Carradine, because I think that was Bruce Lee's role originally.
Yeah, it was his creation.
Yeah, and Bruce Lee even spoke on it.
Yeah.
Right? So from that standpoint, I get it. I understand the gripe. But again, Iron Fist has been established the way he is too long to be like, it's kind of like, Iron Fist has been here in comic book form as a white dude, and now you got something to say about it. You understand? It's a little late, a little late in the day to be saying anything about it. Now it's like, who cares? But I do understand I understand the sensitivity toward it, and I understand the overall picture of what they're saying as far as it's just like the Ghost in the Shell thing. It's like obviously Asian actors are underrepresented in mainstream media as far as the meaty roles, right?
I think that's more of a better case of Asians not being represented.
The Ghost or the
Ghost in the Shell?
Ghost in the Shell? Yeah. Yeah, because story-wise, just forget about the outside controversy of the casting, right? Story-wise, it didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, you're an operative that's working in Japan, and you're supposed to blend in. You're not blending in. The way they cast Scarlett Johansson is not going to blend into Japanese society as a white woman, right? If she's intended to blend in, if that her whole reasoning for this particular shell It's to blend in so you can do your covert operation, right? And that's why I'm like, that doesn't make sense. She should be a Japanese woman. If she was in New York, of course, your shell should be of someone in New York, whether that's black, white, or Asian. But it has to make sense for whatever your mission entails. Everyone knows Japan is homogenous, right? Mm-hmm. So you're gonna stick out easy if you're a foreigner. So that's why I'm questioning, like, why would she pick that shell if she's going to operate in Japan? You know, the other side is Ghost in the Shell could have been the film to introduce an Asian lead and make her a star. This could have been the cultural breaker. This could have been the icebreaker to introduce the West to the East in the science fiction genre and mixed it with a big budget film. This could have been the one.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And just get that door open, because sometimes things have to be done. What's the word? What's that word? When you have to hire minorities.
Outsource?
No.
Like affirmative action.
Sometimes
Affirmative
there's reason. Sometimes affirmative action is needed because, I mean, the reason that affirmative action even exists is because it was needed to begin with, to force people who would otherwise not have the opportunity, regardless of their skills. They wouldn't, based because of the culture and history that we live in. They weren't getting the opportunities by someone being open-minded. So those particular individuals have to be forced to go outside of their comfort zone to give people an opportunity to make a living, because everyone has to eat, man. Everyone needs a roof over their head. It's like, come on, we gotta be realistic now. Like, sometimes you have to force society to operate in the humane way. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like basically what I'm saying is affirmative action didn't just come out of the blue. It happened for a reason. It's
Right.
here for a reason. It's not like, hey, let's have affirmative action for no damn reason. It's just like, to break it down.
Unions.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, unions. I mean, there was a time where people don't, especially young people who don't follow any history, there was a time where they actually had to fight to have a damn lunch break. Mm-hmm. A lunch break. Forget a 15-minute break. Can I have lunch? It's like the Ford company was the pioneer of that. And even them, they had to be forced to do it. You understand? Mm-hmm. Henry Ford was put in the position to have to think about being more accommodating to his workers to get more out of them.
Yeah.
Whereas before they were just like, they didn't care. You work till you die. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, what is wrong with you? I have to actually force you to have common sense and to be, human.
Right.
So it is what it is. And it's just people think that, I think a lot of young people just are living on the blood of others, and they don't particularly appreciate it. They don't give enough appreciation toward it. They're just like, they really take for granted all of the laws that we have now and all of the privileges we have now, and they do not realize people died for some of the most basic, benign things you could think of in our society. Like, it was not always there, Just like a stoplight, like a four-way. How many neighborhoods have you been in where you have these these streets that cross, right? And there was no stop sign or anything, which is kind of like a free for all, right? And after so many accidents, they had to put a light there, right? Yep. They didn't just put the light there because they wanted to. Too many people were dying, or too many accidents were happening. So the proactive was, all right, we got to put a light here. And now people are like, God damn, this light, there wasn't a light here before. But it is, it was there
for a reason.
It's there for a reason. Yeah, exactly. Everything's there for a reason.
I know you're a huge Macross fan. Do you have a favorite character from that anime?
Yeah. Skull Leader, Roy Fokker.
Oh, cool.
That's my guy.
All right.
That's the Han Solo of that universe.
So in the movie adaptation, who would you want to play that role?
Ooh, good question. Gosh, who could be Roy Fokker? And he dies too, Spoiler alert. Wow. I mean, I guess like a Brad Pitt could probably pull it off. He's of age now. He might be too old these days, but someone got some ruggedness to him, but also could be a pilot.
A little cocky.
Yeah. You know who was the written? It was Val Kilmer back in Top Gun.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, he couldn't do it now. But
Even the look,
he had the whole look.
Too.
He had the whole look and everything. Yeah. I know. I don't. Which came first? Macross came before Top Gun, didn't it?
I think so.
The original?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because Top Gun came out in '86, I believe.
Yeah.
Because Rick Foker was Tom Cruise, and Val Kilmer was Roy Foker.
Who, Rick Hunter or
Yeah.
Ichiro.
Ichiro. Is it Ichiro? Yeah. Min May. Then you have Min May, and have somebody who could sing.
I actually met her at
Macross World.
At Macross World last year.
The voice actress?
The voice actress, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For Robotech or for the original?
For the original.
Wow.
Macross. She did the singing too.
Yeah. In Torrance, you have a small little conference, Macross World, where everything's just Macross. So
There's
cool.
Is a place or is it or a convention?
Little, real small convention. Real small.
Oh, so it's not a permanent place
No.
that I can go visit? So I'll make my trek.
I think they have one every year though.
Yeah, every year.
I wish they would advertise this stuff better. Like,
We'll let you know. Maybe.
because I still keep missing the anime convention they have right down the street from here, over there by the mall.
Oh, I forgot which one that was.
I miss it every year. I miss it because I never see any advertising for
Is
it.
it Sakura? No.
There's one right now, I think. It's more, Hadouken?
Hadouken?
Oh, I forgot the name right now.
That's another one movie I would love to have done right. Street Fighter.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. To me, I think that would be a great movie.
I think they just celebrated their 30th anniversary this year.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I miss playing the arcade game.
You that?
I miss playing the arcade game.
The arcade?
Yeah. I guess for the next question, if you were to lead a mission to Mars, what 4 other people would you want to take the trip with you?
Oh, wow. Just anyone I know?
Anyone.
4 people to
I mean,
Mars?
it's a one-way trip, so you know.
One-way trip?
You're not coming back.
Oh, wow.
I don't think you can come back.
I don't know if they'll go, but I guess my family, like, you guys got to come with me. That's 3 people right there. And my wife and kids, they're not gonna want to go though. They're not going to Mars with you.
Be like that. What's that? Space Family Robinson or
yeah. I'll be the only one interested. Yeah, I don't know. Outside of them, it's hard to find people who are into science fiction, like into astronomy and stuff like that.
Yeah,
we're a rare breed. Maybe I'll go with what's his name? Neil
deGrasse Tyson.
How'd you know I was going to say that? Yeah, because he could tell me what I'm looking at.
Right.
What is this? What is that? The only thing I know about is like the actual. I know the planets when I see them.
Right.
And I'm not even. If I knew I can get there quick and survive and come back, I would love to go though. I would do that.
Yeah.
Like if I knew I could, if I don't understand why they don't make an actual ship the size of the Enterprise in space. You know how they made the space station up there?
Yeah.
Right. Why don't they? I don't understand why they can't construct a huge ship instead of, because they're always like we need to build a ship that's big enough for this long journey, but we also have to launch it into space. And I'm like, well, why don't you just build it in space?
Right.
Just take the parts up there and build this massive, and make it look like the Enterprise too.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right? Because who cares when you're up there? It doesn't need to be aerodynamic. Just make it look like it, because it'd be cool to see, in the actual Enterprise, and just have all the amenities that you need for a long trip.
It might be even smarter to do it up there because it's even getting precarious to launch items into space because of all the debris up there.
Yeah. Yeah, just build it. I don't know how many years did it take them to build a space station. I don't remember.
They can build an international spaceship.
And it was an international effort.
Yeah. Right.
And so, or either use the International Space Station, put some engines on it, and fly that thing over there, and come back.
I sometimes ask people what they would do with $1 million, but I think this time I'll ask, what would you do with $100?
$100? Well, if I'm hungry, I get something to eat.
Where would you go?
Probably Carl's Jr. or El Torito's. $100. I'm already, half of it's already gone by eating. If I take the family to the movie, that's all of it. If you get popcorn.
Oh yeah.
You go matinee?
Oh, okay. I might have a couple of bucks left. Let's see, $100. Gosh, couldn't get any sneakers. It cost more than $100. Jeez. If I buy a video game, that's like
50, 60.
$60. Jeez. All right, eat.
Just a nice family dinner.
Yeah, that's about all you can do, right? Or I go and buy a bunch of some of my, probably a couple of art books, because that would take all of it too, because they're usually up in about $40-$50. Buy a couple of art books, some of my favorite artists.
Speaking of art, if you were president of the United States, what kind of art would you hang up in the Oval Office?
Frazetta, man. Frank Frazetta. And if I had the money, I'm definitely going to buy some of his originals if they have it for sale, if I ever have enough money to do so. Frazetta's work.
Cool. Nice.
Who else would I have? Renaissance guys, I'm a fan of Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, like as far as Renaissance dudes go. But I've been more enamored by some of the modern guys like Picasso, Dali, even Henry Matisse. Like I'm starting to have a better appreciation for their work.
Like some of the surreal stuff.
Basquiat.
Yeah.
Some of Andy Warhol stuff. So if you went into my White House, it would look like an art museum. all the greats, and then I would have a section. I would have this hall of all the great comic book artists. Like I would have pages from The Dark Knight. I'll have pages from George Perez's Teen Titans issue 42 when Robin and Kid Flash quit being those heroes. That's a classic issue because it was the all-white cover. The only thing you can see is the back of Wally West and Dick Grayson walking in their costumes in the foreground, just kind of like just laying on the floor. And it's all white in there. And one, I think part of Robin's costume was hanging off the Titans logo. It's kind of like they just tossed their superhero clothes off and they just walking off in the distance. It was ill, man. I love that. In that issue, I asked Perez. I think I ran into Perez and I said, how come that issue is drawn better than all the other books? Like something about that issue looked like some of your best work. And he said that was the only issue I ever inked it myself.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. And I was like, no wonder. Because I always thought as a kid, I was like, I don't know, why doesn't he draw all the issues like this? This was like my favorite. Every panel was like, just talking about it now, I'm going to go look at it after you guys leave. Yeah, that was my favorite issue. As far as art, just drawing, technically, one of my favorite Perez pieces. So I would have that, and I would have Walt Simon, gotta have Walt Simonson. The Walt Simonson, man.
Right.
That Teen Titans X-Men crossover issue that he did, I would have that up on the wall. That was excellent. That whole book was excellent. The way he drew that too. I got to ask him about that. What was his mindset? Neil Adams, Muhammad Ali versus Superman.
Oh
book.
yeah.
That's classic.
That was the way he drew that. Every page is gorgeous.
He had a way with like perspective and just
Yeah,
angles.
and I did talk to him a couple of times at the con, and I bought a reprint of that issue when I was talking to him. That was awesome. Dude, I would love to have all the pages to new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
You have a favorite Ninja Turtle?
Not really. I can't say I really. Originally, you couldn't tell them apart because they didn't have the color codes.
Right,
going on.
exactly.
Yeah, so you had to go by weapons.
Right.
So I think the one with the size. Who's
Raphael.
that? Is that Ralph?
Yeah,
Ralph?
that's Raphael.
So him, yeah. And you know where that came from, right? That the whole thing was a rip off of Frank Miller's Ronin style and Daredevil story.
Huh. Okay.
Mainly the Daredevil story. You had Stick, which was the rat.
Oh, got it.
And then the ninja, because a lot of the American comic book collectors were introduced to ninjas through Daredevil's.
So
storyline.
Electro's like more like Raphael.
I don't think they had a mirror of her in the book.
But she's his size, so I don't know.
Yeah. But that way, the whole storytelling from the way he did the panels, that's from Ronin. He did these hand drawn panels that were not clean; they were rough looking.
Uh-huh.
That's all from Ronin, and they were all horizontal panels. That's from Ronin, also Frank Miller's Ronin.
Okay.
The cover, the posing and the cover, and how it was all red with the black, that was from Ronin. So
Wow. Go check that out.
yeah, they totally aped that whole style.
Well, I mean,
rode that wave.
with a flattery is the best form of.
Yeah, but they were super. But at the same time, it was super unique to mix turtles and ninjas. I mean, that was ill. That was crazy. Like that's still an awesome concept. So that was the fresh part about it. So they could get away with it.
So, copying is the best form of flattery.
Yeah. True.
So I guess we can move on to the flash forward segment and sort of talk what's on the horizon for us. Keithan, what's some future projects you got going on that you can tell us about?
Currently trying in the shadows, developing a children's story.
Oh, cool.
And it's going to be based on one of my favorite subject matters, which is astronomy. Or is it astrology? Space. Astronomy, right? Space, right?
Which
Astronomy.
Astronomy, right? Yeah, astronomy. And it's not, I want to, it's a children's story. I want it to be entertaining, but also educational about astronomy at the same time. But that's not the actual focal point of it. That's just mixed in there in an organic way. But I'm still going back and forth with it, so I can't really get into the story other than to tell you that it's got a little bit of. It's also a little inspired by Elon Musk and what he's doing.
Right.
So, yeah, space travel, private NASA versus the independent industry, space travel industry.
Uh-huh.
Mixed in with a kid, mixed in with some aliens, mixed in with some astrology, and that's all I can tell you.
Cool. We'll look forward to that. Are there any conventions? I know we mentioned MechaCon earlier. And besides MechaCon and San Diego Comic-Con, are there any other conventions you've been making
Not
appearances?
scheduled. I don't have anything scheduled, but I'm open to, especially out there. I'm focused. I'm trying to get the book done.
Yeah.
As soon as the book done, I plan to like hit up anything I can, and for the rest of this year and moving forward, just to get it. Because it's one thing to do social media, but it's a whole other thing to actually be out there and in person.
Of course.
Starting to meet people and interact more. So that's my goal.
Right.
Just to get out there more and do some more networking.
Cool. Hopefully we can help you out at San Diego Comic-Con.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm tossing around the idea of even having my own Comic Con in the summer.
Ooh.
So
Very cool.
and so that it's not this big gigantic thing, but an actual comic fan community convention.
We recently went to San Diego Comic Fest. It was a pretty cool convention. It's started by the founder of Comic Con.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like older crowd.
Oh, okay.
You know, people who went during the 70s and,
Wow.
early 80s.
Wow,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool convention. I guess, what we got going on, Alex?
next week, like I said, we have Silicon Valley Comic Con. In May, hopefully we could do Phoenix. And I think June is Amazing Las Vegas Comic Con.
Cool. And we also got the International Mobile Film Festival coming up. That's this April 28th through the 30th. Find out more information about that at International Mobile, MOBILE, filmfestival.com. We will be doing a red carpet podcast at the awards night on that Sunday. We also have Joel, our good friend from Convention Life, taking pictures at that event. And Tracy, Hot Nerd Girl, and her Star Wars Steampunk Universe cosplay group will be there too. So if you're interested in going, I got a 50% promo code that I can give to you. Just give us a message, a direct message on any of our social media channels, and I'll get in touch with you.
What I want to do, what I would like to do with you guys is like be one of the first to do like a world premiere media event when the book is done.
Nice.
Like if we can do like some type of live feed or
Okay.
something like that somewhere, and just like once I say the book is live and available for sale, and just kind of make it a indie community thing, like do the world premiere of the book, take on questions maybe. I don't know how we could do it, but I thought that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And we could maybe we could do like a little fake red carpet type of suit and tie thing. I don't know, something funny, something fun.
That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
fun.
I thought,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline.
yeah.
And we also, like we mentioned earlier, San Diego Comic Con is coming up in July. I think there's about 13 weeks left. So make sure you are continuing to be SDCC fit because it really does matter. I guess before we close out the show, Keithan, is there anything else that we missed that you would like our audience to know about?
No, I think we covered everything. Again, a big shout out, big thanks to everyone that supported the Kickstarter for the Power Knights 3, and I'm really excited for you guys to read the book. I hope you give me a chance, give the book a chance. I know for a fact that it's the best one of the three so far, and I'm just really excited to get it for you guys for people to see it and hear feedback and just move the needle forward on the whole kid movement. And that's it, man. And Godspeed to everyone out there trying to do the same thing and keep the industry going. And it's all love on my end. And once again, go to KID-comics.com to keep track of what we're releasing, and you can go to Kid Comics for Facebook, Kid Comics Online, to get the daily updates about what's happening, including the contest. Like I said, there's a kid art contest. Basically, we're looking for a pinup of one of our four main books characters, and the prize is $400. So look into that, and that's it, guys. And that's about it.
Good luck.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we always appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on with us.
Oh, for sure.
And we'll continue to support you, and we'll look forward to what you got going on next.
For sure.
All right, Alex, why don't you close us out?
All right. Thanks everyone for listening to the Hall H show. Our mission is to put the mainstream Hall H spotlight on artists, writers, and other creatives. We especially love emerging talent and people we think deserve more exposure, like independent comic book creator Keithan Jones here. We all love attending conventions, so please get a point to visit Artist Alley at all the conventions you plan on going to this year. Show them some love. Speaking of conventions, make sure you are continuing to be SDCC fit for the long con season ahead. Join in on the fun by following the SDCC Fit movement online on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you are listening to us on Google Play, iTunes, or Stitcher, we would appreciate a rating and a comment. We're always looking for interesting guests to have on the show. So if you have any suggestions, please reach out to us on social media using hashtag HallH Show. Are you an artist wanting to promote your Kickstarter campaign for an upcoming project? Let us know. Give us contact us. Peace, cheers, and artists assemble.
Artists assemble. See you guys later.